Do you know this NFL running back who just told the first female Supreme Court justice in history to loosen up, Sandy baby?
Just gonna take it to the house.
There's the snap, and the Riggins good. Oh, he's got the first down, the 40, he's gone! The 35, the 30, the 40, he's gone!
Before passing out on the ballroom floor and snoring through a speech by the Vice President of the United States, this is the same man who 2 years earlier broke a tackle and ran 43 yards to win a Super Bowl MVP. The same guy who wore a mohawk to team meetings, rode motorcycles through New York City, quit football entirely because it wasn't fun anymore, and then came back to break records at age 34. John Riggins broke every rule in the book and somehow became one of the greatest running backs in NFL history, because sometimes the most legendary careers don't follow the script. Most NFL rookies show up to their first training camp scared, nervous, ready to prove themselves. John Riggins showed up to the New York Jets in 1971 with a mohawk haircut and an attitude. Joe Namath, the king of New York cool himself, looked at Riggins and said he was eccentric, but as a teammate, he was sensational. And when football stopped being fun in New York, he admitted it publicly. In his own words, "For a couple of years in New York, I played the game without a heart. It being a professional game, it seemed like I could do it that way. 5 years with the Jets, 3,880 rushing yards total. Decent, but nothing special. He was talented, but unmotivated. A party guy with potential." So in 1976, he signed with the Washington Redskins. New city, new team, same John Riggins. The first 2 years in Washington, more of the same. He was still the backup, still underutilized, still frustrated, still partying. By 1978, Riggins was pushing 30 years old with a resume that screamed wasted potential. The party animal was running out of chances. But then something changed. July 1980, training camp. John Riggins walked into the Redskins facility with a contract demand. He wanted more money, more security, more respect. The team said no, so Riggins did something crazy. He quit, walked out, left camp, retired from football. The Redskins put him on the retired left camp list, which meant he couldn't play for any team in the NFL. His salary? Gone. His career? Over. Here's what's wild. Riggins didn't care. In an interview, he said, "Football isn't fun for me anymore. It would have been futile for me to play this season." The Redskins went 6-10 without him. Terrible season. And after it was over, they hired a new coach, Joe Gibbs. In the spring of 1981, Gibbs flew to Kansas to personally recruit Riggins. Riggins had one demand, a no-trade clause. He wanted control. Gibbs agreed. And when Riggins returned to Washington for his press conference, he delivered one of the most legendary quotes in NFL history. "I'm bored, I'm broke, and I'm back. Bored, broke, and back." That's not a motivational comeback story. That's not, "I've learned my lesson." That's pure John Riggins, honest, blunt, and completely himself. He rushed for 714 yards and 13 touchdowns in 1981. Not spectacular, but he was back in the game. Then came the 1982 season. Only 9 regular season games because of a strike. But Joe Gibbs had a plan. Give Riggins the ball and keep giving it to him. The party animal was about to become something nobody expected. A legend. The 1982 playoffs. Riggins was 33 years old. Most running backs are washed up by this age, but Riggins was just getting started. In 3 games, Riggins carried the ball 98 times for 444 yards. And the whole time, still John Riggins, still partying, still living life. Super Bowl 17, January 30th, 1983. Rose Bowl in Pasadena. Washington Redskins versus the Miami Dolphins. The best defense in football. Miami jumped out to a 17-10 halftime lead. They scored on a 76-yard touchdown pass and a 98-yard kickoff return. Washington was struggling, but Joe Gibbs made a simple adjustment. Give the ball to the party animal. Third quarter. Riggins, Riggins, Riggins. Over and over, pounding the ball, wearing down Miami's defense. Washington added a field goal. 17-13 Miami, fourth quarter, 10 minutes left. Washington ball at their own 43-yard line, 4th and 1. Too far for a field goal, not worth punting. Everything on the line. Joe Gibbs called the play I Write 70 chip. The design was genius. Block everyone except Miami's smallest defender, cornerback Don McNeil, 5 feet 11, 190 pounds. Let Riggins handle him one-on-one. The ball snapped. Joe Theismann handed it to Riggins. The offensive line opened a massive hole. Riggins hit it with a full head of steam. Don McNeil met him at the line of scrimmage. Wrapped him up. Perfect tackle. But Riggins didn't go down. He powered through, broke the tackle, accelerated, and then he was gone. 43 yards straight down the sideline. Nobody catching him. The party animal running for glory. Touchdown, Washington 20, Miami 17. The Rose Bowl exploded. The Redskins had their first lead of the game. Washington added another touchdown. Final score, 27-17. John Riggins, 38 carries, 166 yards, 1 touchdown. Super Bowl MVP. John Riggins won a Super Bowl and said, "Watch this." 1983 season. Riggins was now 34 years old, and he put together one of the greatest seasons by a running back in NFL history. 1,347 rushing yards, 24 rushing touchdowns. That touchdown record stood for 12 years. He led the entire league in rushing touchdowns. He scored in 13 consecutive games, tying an NFL record. He was named first-team All-Pro for the first and only time in his career, at 34 years old, after a career of partying and not taking things seriously. But wait, there's more. 1984 season, age 35. Bad back. Most guys would retire. Riggins rushed for 1,239 yards and 14 touchdowns. On November 18, 1984, at 35 years, 3 months, and 9 days old, John Riggins became the oldest player in NFL history to rush for over 1,000 yards in a season. That record still stands today. He's tied with John Henry Johnson. Here's what's absolutely mind-blowing. Riggins rushed for more yards in his 30s than in his 20s. He's the only running back in NFL history to do that. January 30th, 1985, exactly 2 years after his Super Bowl MVP performance. John Riggins was invited to the Washington Press Club's annual Salute to Congress dinner. This wasn't just any dinner. This was the dinner. Black tie. Washington's most powerful people, members of Congress, Supreme Court justices. The event was hosted by People magazine. Riggins was seated at a table with Virginia Governor Chuck Robb and Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, the first woman ever appointed to the Supreme Court. According to multiple witnesses, Riggins had been drinking throughout the cocktail hour. He knocked over bottles of red wine at the table, and then, as Justice O'Connor prepared to leave, Riggins, loud enough for everyone to hear, said, "Come on, Sandy baby, loosen up, you're too tight." The room went silent, but Riggins wasn't done. He walked over to where Justice O'Connor's husband was seated. He knelt beside the table, squatted, stared into space, and then passed out on the ballroom floor. He stayed there, snoring, through a speech by Vice President George Bush. Waiters stepped around him, cameras avoided him. Eventually, someone woke him up by shaking his nose and pulling his hair. The next day, it was international news. Friends called him from South America and Japan. The party animal had made global headlines. Riggins later sent flowers and an apology to Justice O'Connor. And here's the crazy part. She forgave him. Years later, she attended his Broadway play opening night and presented him with flowers and a football to sign. They remained friends until her death in 2023. Riggins played the 1985 season but was eventually replaced. After the season, Joe Gibbs suggested it was time to retire. Riggins refused, so Washington released him, and on his own terms, John Riggins retired after the 1985 season. The party animal walked away, but the legend, that was just beginning. 11,352 rushing yards, 104 rushing touchdowns, second player ever to reach 100 rushing touchdowns, 610 postseason rushing yards in a single playoff run, still a record. Oldest player to rush for 1,000 yards, still a record. 1992, Pro Football Hall of Fame. The party animal was immortalized forever. In 1990, when the Redskins inducted him into their Ring of Fame, Riggins showed up in full uniform, pads and all. He ran onto the field at RFK Stadium one more time. He later explained, "I just had to hear it one more time." Today, at 75 years old, John Riggins practices yoga. He's a vegan, a house husband. The party animal settled down, but the legend never faded. That's a life philosophy. Smash that like button and subscribe to Kicker Throne. Drop a comment. Could a player like John Riggins exist in today's NFL?